Welcome to another episode of the It Ain't Wrong to Be Strong podcast series brought to you by RAMMFIT. Law-bound masculine insight and wisdom from life experience. We know it's true because we've lived it. Enjoy the episode. You'll probably notice that there's a bit of a shake-up with the way that the podcast series is rolling along. I got rid of the introduction that I recorded a little while ago, and it's not really me. I got help with it, and it's like, it's not really me in a way that it's not the words that I would use. It sounds good and it sounds all, corporate-y and, intelligent. But at the end of the day, it's not really me. And I just thought, I'll just ditch this and start again. So I am refining the podcast series. It's a constant refinement. It's not something where you put your best work out there at the beginning. And that's what you do when you create something like I am and like a lot of entrepreneurs have. They put it out there and it's a constant process of refining and getting better and mastering the process and mastering your work. And podcasting is no different, right? So the other thing I want to say is today I'm actually recovering from, I've had a really bad bout of the flu, and this is the fourth day, I think it is. So I'm doing my very best to, not cough and carry on in the microphone, but, it is what it is and it's all good. But today I want to talk about something called posthumous motivation, and it's a word that I don't normally use, and basically it means you are using some tragic circumstances to fuel your desire to succeed or do well in something or create something or even level up in life. The reason I wanted to do this podcast episode is because I've drawn on my own experiences to help me level up and fuel my desire to win, achieve, and succeed. And it's not easy. And I also have, I guess, the experience that I've had with my own friends and family members and things like that. And even people that I've gone to school with, I've seen people who have literally spiraled downwards because they have lost someone, whether it's been a breakup in a relationship, they've gone through a divorce, and next minute there's drugs and alcohol and strippers and cocaine and all that bullshit. And that's fair enough because it's I guess it's not easy. I've never been married, but obviously I've spoken about this many times before. I've had relationships, just like any male that's growing up. I've been around the block a few times, I guess is the right way to put it. And I've experienced breakups and relationship breakdowns and things like that, and losing people that you loved or you thought you loved. But it was love at the time, and you felt something for those people, and it didn't work out, and it's collapsed, and it didn't work out. So of course you are sad, and I'm not saying that we are bad people because we feel sad because we've lost somebody, or it may have even collapsed or broken down because of our own stupid fault, the things that we did. And that's important that we take ownership of that, but not dwell in it, because that's what keeps you in that spiraling motion where we continue to go downward, and we hit the drugs and the alcohol and the women and spending money and blowing money, and next minute, nothing's achieved. We just waste 10 years of our life. So what we've got to do is we've got to start drawing on these experiences and use them as fuel to level up in life and do better. So I'm going to use a couple of experiences for you, and hopefully it will inspire you to look at what's happened in your life, and maybe you can use it as fuel to help you level up and succeed in whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So the first thing I think I want to go to, and it's not in any specific order, but I want to go to my friend Jamie. We grew up together. I remember meeting him. We were both probably 3 or 4 at the time, and his parents were building behind my parents, and they came up to say hello because obviously our parents were, the two families were building in the area at the time, and Jamie's parents said hello to my parents, and next minute I was introduced to Jamie, and I remember the first thing I said to him was, "Oh, you're still in nappies." It's a bit harsh, but being a typical Aries, there's no filter, it just came out. And that started, I guess, a lifelong friendship. And Jamie and I grew up together. We went through a lot of good times, a lot of bad times. I think his parents broke up. I think it was we were in year 6, so it was something like 1986 or 1987. It was around that time his parents divorced, and it hit Jamie pretty hard, and we all tried to be there as best as we could for Jamie. And, life goes on. We do different things. We experience different things, and we get into trouble here and there, and we learn from our mistakes. And I think it was 1994, Jamie asked me if I'd be willing to move up to Brisbane, which I did. And I moved in with Jamie, and we spent like 2 years together, and, a 2-bedroom unit on the south side of Brisbane, halfway between Brisbane and the Gold Coast it was. And it was great. We had a lot of fun times. I think every weekend we were drunk, partying. There was girls and things like that. We had a good time, we really enjoyed ourselves, and we really solidified, I guess the word would be, is our brotherhood and our friendship. And we had other friends that would come over and party, and we'd catch up with different people separately, and but we lived together, and we were all mates, and we experienced things, and there was the level of brotherhood there, because we'd been through that together, and we lived in a city. We were both from the country, and it was a shared experience, and we had a bond, and that continued all the way through our 20s and our 30s. And every time I would go home to see my parents, I would catch up with Jamie, because he actually moved away from Brisbane. I think it was 2001 or something like that. And he moved down to Newcastle. So we didn't see much of each other during the year, but every Christmas we would go home and spend Christmas with our families, and I would catch up with Jamie as well as our other mates, and we'd all catch up together and get it, up to no good and do our thing. And it was a good time. There was 20 years of that sort of shit going on, and we'd catch up and tinker with our cars, and we called it playing car lovers. We had a good time. And then we'd go back to our normal routine of what we'd get up to during the year with work and training, or doing whatever it is we were doing. And the same thing would happen the following year. But the sad thing is, in 2023, I think it was, it's really bad of me to say this, but Jamie passed away in his sleep. And it was very sad. I didn't actually go to his funeral, and not because I didn't care, but because I don't think, for me, funerals are the right way to say goodbye. I don't want to turn up and, it's just very awkward for me personally. And it's something that I live with. It's choices that I make. He's not the only person that I've done that to. It's something that I do. It's a pattern. And it's a conscious pattern, by the way, but there's a reason I do it, which I'll go into. I didn't want to turn up and be sad on the day and listen to everything that I know anyway. I just didn't feel it was right for me. I thought the right thing for me to do was to take that tragedy and use it as fuel, which is what I did. So every year at my karate school, I dedicate an award to one student, and it's the Jamie Ryan Fighting Spirit Award. And that person every year gets an award for basically their resilience, their discipline, their perseverance, their technique, everything that is involved with leveling up in the martial arts. So if someone consistently does that throughout the year and does it more than anybody else, that person gets the award. And it's not given out lightly. I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, I actually awarded it, and I came to my decision on the night. I had to actually fill in the name of that person because I couldn't pick between two people. And that's how serious I take it. So I use that, I guess I use Jamie's passing as motivation, and it's part of the legacy of our dojo. So every year we celebrate that award, and I talk about Jamie and how proud he would be of that student. And it's something that I use to keep Jamie's memory alive, and it's a legacy because, Jamie was somebody who worked very hard in his job. He was a sign writer, and he was a master of his craft, and he was always seeking perfection and always seeking excellence. And that is why I decided to call that award the Jamie Ryan Fighting Spirit Award. And it's awarded every year, like I said, to the student who is the most improved, I guess, is how you'd put it into one sentence. So I don't dwell on things for too long. I don't stay depressed. I'm not sad for months and months on end. I actually use tragedy as fuel and it fuels the process of success. And I turn that negative energy or that sadness or the tragedy or the something that could be very sad, I turn it around and turn it into something positive. It's a legacy, and it's something that we are celebrating every single year. So that's the story of Jamie. I could go on about this all day with Jamie and I. We got up to a lot of trouble. We were good mates. We didn't so much talk the last few years, maybe the last 5 years, but a couple of Christmases there, we didn't actually catch up because we had other things on. But we always stayed in touch. We were texting each other and things like that. So, yeah, it was a best mate who passed. And to honour him, I used the Jamie Ryan Fighting Spirit Award in his honour. The second thing I want to talk about is my karate mentor, Hunchy Howard Littman. So he passed away a couple of years ago as well. And same thing, I didn't go to the funeral. It's something inside of me. I don't feel the need, and it's not from a place of selfishness. Don't confuse this with being selfish. It's just something that I have to do for me. I have to gather my thoughts. I have to work out, how can I honour this person in the best possible way, because they have made such a profound impact on my life, and in everything that I do is because of their influence. So I decided to basically dedicate the entire art of Malkor Kai Karate that I created in 2024. I dedicated the entire system to Howard Littman, and everything that we do, our technique. Every class I talk about him. I tell some funny stories if it pops up. But I always use Hunchy's memory and the way that he would train us. And, he would teach at seminars and teach when he come up to my dojo. I always remembered the standard that he held, and he held everything in a very high or at a very high standard. Nothing was ever, oh, that's good enough, that'll do. He wasn't that kind of teacher or that kind of mentor. You had to do it, and you had to be precise with everything that you do, with intention, nothing unconscious. So I thought, you know what, that's exactly what my art is all about. It's about refining the character. It is about mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional command. And it's not about being close enough. It's not about, oh, my emotions got the better of me today. Oh, that'll do it. I made a mistake, but who cares? It's about having emotional command and bringing those emotions under control and voluntary control so that they don't control you. And you have to be precise. You have to be conscious, and you have to channel that energy and make a conscious effort to control those 4 pillars, which is the emotions, the mind, the body, and the spirit. So, I could go on about this all day as well, but Hunchy Howard Littman made a very profound impact on me, my life, and is a big influence still to this day, even though he is gone, on everything that I do and the way that I live. I'm always trying to do things to his level. And that's not a validation thing. It's basically, he was so good at what he did, and he organized his affairs, and everything was done precisely and consciously, and he paid attention to the finer details, and that's how he taught. So I use that in my everyday life, with my financial affairs, with my book work, with podcasting is a great example. I'm constantly refining podcasting. I'm trying to do it better. I'm trying to seek excellence and seek perfection, knowing that the irony is that I will never achieve it. But in the process, you find excellence. And that's what Hunchy Howard Littman taught me. And, I use his passing as fuel so that it fuels the process of getting better and better and leveling up and refinement and seeking perfection, because that's what he would want. And the third example I want to use is my own mum. So my mum passed away on the first day of spring 2024. And look, it's a long story, but my mum was very sick for about 10 years. And I had to prepare myself for her passing, because I know that that day would come, and I knew it would come, very, very quickly. Time just, it goes so fast, especially as you get older. And I knew it was coming, and I had to prepare myself I didn't need any counseling or anything like that. I didn't want anybody's help. It's a path that I needed to walk myself for me. So I prepared myself for many years. Like I said, it was 10 years as far as I was aware. And the one thing that I draw inspiration from in my everyday life when it's time to be strong is when my mum was, she was on her last, it was her last days, literally days out. She had a couple of days from the point of this example to when she actually passed away. But my mum was very ill. She was barely conscious. But when the nurses turned up to give her what they told us was going to be her last dose of morphine, because it was such a level that it would basically, she wouldn't survive. But when they walked into the room, my mum woke up and she kind of opened her eyes, and they sat her up in bed, and she wanted to know what they were injecting her with and how much of it was in the syringe, the vial. And I watched my mum, and she taught these nurses, by the way. My mum was a nurse her entire adult life, basically. And the people that would come through this hospital where she worked, she was their mentor. So here she was in the hospital where she trained a lot of these people, and she was dying, and her family was around her. And I watched my own mother sit up in bed with the help of the nurses and all of us, and basically keep an eye on these people who she had mentored in her own life. And she watched them to make sure that they were doing it correctly. And what I find inspirational about that is that my mum did that even though she knew that she was going to her death. Now, I admire anybody, and it's always too late to tell these people that, but anybody who is aware that they have a very, very limited time left, maybe days, maybe months, maybe even a year, that must be playing on their mind constantly. It must keep them awake at night, and that is something that they have to endure. We're all going to get there one day unless something happens tragically, we die in a car accident or something like that. But if we're growing old, that is the fate that awaits all of us. We have to go to our death knowing that there's nothing that we can do. And all we can do is walk the path. So I watched my own mother walk the path, and on that path, she consciously sat up and made sure that the nurses administering the final dose, if you like, of morphine, and she watched that they were doing it correctly, and after that, she pretty much collapsed, and she didn't die at the time, but she never regained consciousness. Now, I wasn't sad at the time. I did feel sad on the inside, but I actually sat and watched my own mother's strength. And to me, that is one of the most powerful things that any human being can do, especially knowing that they are about to die anyway. And that dose would make sure that was going to happen. My mum had emphysema and she couldn't breathe. She was constantly on oxygen towards the end. And I thought I'd use mum's example as the last one because it was the most, I can't even think of the word, the most profound impact on me as a man, watching my own mother's strength. And that is what I use every single day to help me level up in life and to draw inspiration from so that I can do better and be a better man. So the entire point of this podcast episode is this. Don't let tragedy of any kind get to you, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a breakup. You may never have been married like me. I've never been married and I don't have any kids that I know of, mind you. But the thing is, you can't let tragedy eat away at you because that's not what these people would want. Doesn't matter whether it's a divorce or a breakup or a parent dying or a loved one dying, your best mate, your karate teacher, your mum, it doesn't matter. These people would not want you to dwell on that. They would want you to honor them by living your best life and living up to your true and fullest potential as a man in modern day society, and stop being distracted. Because I can tell you something right now. If they had their time all over again, or if they had another 20 years, they would be saying the same thing to you today. Stop being distracted. Stop worrying about petty things and having petty entanglements with people that really don't matter. Stop being triggered. Stop being worried about what your neighbours are doing or what your sister's doing or what your brother's doing. Focus on yourself. Draw on that energy and use it to level up in life, whether it's to create a business and do what I did and give awards in their honour, or name a syllabus after your Uncle Bob like I did. Whatever it is that you're doing, you need to draw on that tragedy and channel it into something that benefits other people. And that is the most honourable thing that you can possibly do when it comes to tragedy and overcoming tragedy, because then it's no longer about you. Because when you're dwelling in your own self-pity and you're looking to associate with other people out there who are on the mental health bandwagon and, surrounded by other people who are in the same situation, you can't own it. So it's better to just leak masculine energy everywhere. That's not what they would want you to do. That's not your job. Your job is to honor these people and do better, because they're not around anymore. They can't do it. So stop being selfish. Stop drinking yourself into oblivion. Stop the drug taking. Stop smoking your pot. Stop gambling, gaming. All of these things, they're just a distraction. They mean nothing. They are draining your masculine energy and they are taking your time, because then you don't have any more time to invest into building something that benefits other people, like a business, starting a martial art and then learning and mastering that martial art and teaching other people. That's exactly what I did. And it's not that I'm better or worse than anybody else listening to this podcast series. It's simply that's what I did. It's a conscious choice that I made. So instead of spiraling downward, guys, and instead of saying, look, I've got to give up, I've lost I've lost the love of my life, or I've lost my mum, or I've lost my karate teacher, lost my best mate, lost my job. I don't know what it is. There's always a positive that you can draw from that experience and channel it into something worthwhile that benefits other people. There is always something. It's your job to find it instead of checking out of life and, like I said, getting on the mental health bandwagon and start virtue signaling like that's what the mainstream narrative wants you to do. That's called leaking masculine energy, and that's not your job. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's posthumous motivation, and you have to use it. Draw on that energy, draw on those tragedies, own them, take full ownership, accountability, and responsibility. And that's not saying it's your fault. It's saying that it happened to you and you cannot change it, so you may as well own it. Thanks very much for listening, guys, and I will check in with you soon with another episode of the It Ain't Wrong to Be Strong podcast series, brought to you by RAMMFIT. Stay sharp and stay aligned.